Hey everyone, welcome back to an evening update here on Weather on the Go. My name is Hunter and we are talking about a significant winter storm, the biggest winter storm of 2025 thus far, with heavy snow, ice, significant flash flooding risk, and a significant severe weather risk as well. We're going to be covering all bases of this winter storm in this forecast. So if you are here, make sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Like the video, give it a thumbs up, and share this video with friends, family, and on social media. I truly do appreciate it. Let's waste no time. Let's get into the forecast. Let's talk about the short term as far as temperatures are concerned, because I know you guys are excited about the weekend. I am as well. And by the way, I hope everybody had a wonderful and happy Valentine's Day out there. Here are your temperatures to start off your Saturday on February 15th. And notice the sub-zero temperatures are really bottled up to the north, but it's still pretty cold up here into places like North Dakota, parts of South Dakota, and northern Minnesota, where we could be waking up tomorrow morning with temperatures 10 degrees below zero. And when you factor in a slight breeze out there, yeah, our wind chill values are going to be dropping like a rock down to around 30 degrees below zero. Not unheard of for North Dakota, but definitely enough to cause frostbite in less than 30 minutes. So make sure that you are bundling up with layers and covering exposed skin if you do venture outdoors tomorrow morning. Now out west, same deal, pretty cold, especially to the north up into Montana. Sub-zero temperatures up here, a little bit warmer as you imagine further south as you go as we go into tomorrow morning. Wind chill values up into Montana, especially northeast Montana and eastern Montana, around 15 degrees below zero. Again, you just want to bundle up in layers and cover exposed skin tomorrow morning. Out across the east, coldest areas, northern Maine with a heavier snowpack on the ground, northern New Hampshire, northern Vermont, and upstate New York, even Quebec, pretty cold up here toward Montreal as well. That's where we're dealing with some pretty cold temperatures below zero, and our wind chills up here too are around 15, 20 degrees below zero. So just be smart about it. Bundle up with layers and cover exposed skin over here as well. Further south you go, yeah, we're starting off in the 40s, 50s, and 60s down near the Gulf Coast and into Florida. Decent start to your weekend. Now let's look at our temperature anomalies for both Saturday and Sunday, the 15th and 16th of February. And you know you're talking about a big winter storm when you have warmer air rushing out ahead of it and cold air, and polar cold air, by the way, diving southward on the backside and bisecting that's the storm track here from Texas all the way to the Great Lakes. And let's talk more about this storm because it's already spreading moisture into the Intermountain West here. It's been doing it for the past 48 hours or so. We saw some pretty heavy rains in California and the West Coast. We also saw some very hefty amounts of snow across the Sierras as well. Now, the precipitation rate is starting to dwindle a little bit as this pushes more inland, but we're still seeing some pretty decent and widespread snow across the Rockies here. Still some snow showers this evening in the Sierras. But the rainfall is really starting to taper, and as we go through the day on Saturday, really every hour that we get past sunrise, we're going to start to see that storm system move out of the picture and further inland here across the Rockies. There's the storm system as we go into this evening. It's around a 1001 millibar low in western Kansas. Watch as it dives southeast toward Texas tomorrow morning, picks up some Gulf moisture, and then really starts to deepen through the day on Saturday. By Saturday evening, down into southern Indiana at a 997 millibar low. The lower the number, the stronger the low pressure and the stronger the storm will be. And notice by the time we get into Sunday afternoon or around midday, it's down here into western New York as a 976 millibar low. That is a very powerful winter storm for this time of year and likely the strongest we have so far of 2025. Let's look at the warm side because concerning is severe weather. We do have a large area at risk for severe weather and covering East Texas along and east of the I-35 corridor from Dallas-Fort Worth to Waco all the way down toward Houston, and it expands all the way north and east to Kentucky here. So Bowling Green up there toward Lexington, Richmond, definitely have to keep an eye on it over here as well, into Chattanooga, into Knoxville, even the Atlanta metro, and even as far east as the Carolinas have to keep an eye on this as well. But especially in this orange shaded color, that is a level 3 out of 5. That's an enhanced risk of severe weather for numerous severe storms that are likely. This covers a lot of southeastern Arkansas, much of northeastern Louisiana into Mississippi, and western parts of Alabama as well. And looking at the individual hazards, now that we're close enough to this event, we could be seeing some significant EF2 or stronger intensity tornadoes, especially where you see this yellow outline with the polka dots gusts, especially into the Pine Bluff area of Arkansas and southeast Arkansas, the Monroe, Louisiana area up here into Tupelo, into Memphis, even to the Jackson metro area in Mississippi. We have to keep an eye on this potential, but even outside of that area, in the brown, even dark green, we have a 5 and 2% chance of a tornado within a 25-mile radius here, and this accompanies a large chunk of Dixie Alley and even as far north as Kentucky here, so we do have to keep in mind for that. And then widespread damaging winds. I think we could see a widespread swath of 60 to 80 mile per hour winds as this very strong squall line traverses from west to east across the lower 48 here, especially across portions of Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, southwest Tennessee, and then into Alabama. That slight risk of some damaging winds might actually expand a little bit further east with some of the new data that I am seeing here. And again, it's February. We don't have a lot of instability for hail, but hail initially with those supercells as they develop back here toward Arkansas, northern Louisiana, and western portions of Mississippi could pose a risk for, quarter, half-inch, or ping pong ball size hail, not to be ruled out as we go through the day. Now let's look here at the setup, because this is very interesting as we are in the middle of February and the Gulf is not that far away. A lot of moisture, as you can imagine, with a big body of water. Notice tomorrow morning, dew points down here are in the mid and upper 60s into New Orleans, into the Baton Rouge area. That's going to lift and advect northward through the day on Saturday. 60s dew points getting all the way up into Memphis, even the Nashville area as we go into Saturday afternoon, and that will sweep east with the cold front, and look at the dry air on the backside. So this is a powerful cold front that we are dealing with here, and we are going to be dealing with quite a bit of storm energy, especially for the middle of February standards. Over 2,000 joules per kilogram here along the Mississippi River in the lower Mississippi Valley Saturday afternoon. Another component to this is the low-level wind shear. This is your low-level jet here at the 850 millibar layer, just a couple thousand feet above our heads. And notice as it starts to strengthen with a maturing low pressure up there into the Ohio Valley and into the Northeast. Look at these colors, the browns and the kind of these tan shaded colors. That's where we're talking about really the potential of over 70 knots of low-level wind shear. And if you guys know, if you get over 50 knots, that's pretty significant. We're over 70 knots here. So not only is widespread damaging winds going to be a concern between 60 and 80 miles an hour, but some strong, longer track tornadoes. And we have to look at what we call the significant tornado parameter space. This gives you an idea of if the storms develop in this location, could they produce strong tornadoes? The higher the value, obviously, the higher the chance of some strong tornadoes. Notice that grows by midday on Saturday to around 3 out of 10 here on the scale. And then by Saturday mid-afternoon, especially into that 10% polka dotted area we showed you that has the best chance for strong tornadoes, that's a 5 out of 10. So essentially a 50% chance of seeing a strong tornado here in parts of southeast Arkansas, northern Louisiana, into parts of southwest Tennessee, but even getting into Mississippi, and that kind of lingers with us as we go into the evening before this really just turns into a nasty squall line with some embedded tornadoes that could be weaker into Alabama, but also the potential for widespread wind damage here as well. So let's look at the radar here and spend a lot of time talking about this. We have a flash flooding threat too. We don't want to ignore that. So if you're in Kentucky, saturated soils, we're going to see some very heavy 1 to 2 inch per hour rain rates here that extend back toward Memphis. Very heavy flash flooding risk to start the day, and that will continue. Notice these storms just train over the same areas over and over for hours. I think this could be a very dangerous flash flooding setup. There is a high risk upgrade for flash flooding from Kentucky back into the mid-Mississippi Valley. This is something to take seriously through the day on Saturday, in addition to the severe risk. And here comes those storms, big squall line moving through, and we have to watch these individual semi-discrete supercells out ahead of the main squall line. These could pose the risk for strong tornadoes here as they're all by themselves, kind of eating up that storm energy. And then here comes the cold front, very strongly forced line of some severe winds moving across Mississippi, Louisiana, and into Alabama in the middle Tennessee region. This is going into Saturday evening, so very noisy there in the Music City of Nashville, Birmingham, Tuscaloosa, down to New Orleans, Hattiesburg, getting into Mobile as we go into overnight. And then as we go into Sunday morning, I think the squall line just continues to hold its own, even into the middle Carolinas, into portions of middle and southern Georgia, northern Florida. We definitely have to keep an eye on some at least isolated severe wind gusts, 60, 70 miles an hour hanging on, even into the mid-morning hours on Saturday. Now, we are looking at the potential for some really heavy rain, okay? Make no mistake about it. We showed you how those storms are training over the same areas here, especially into Kentucky. I'm really concerned in that moderate high risk area of flash flooding that the Weather Prediction Center put out across central and western Kentucky into western Tennessee here and back into northeast Arkansas, kind of the bullseye where we could see locally 6 to 10 inches worth of rain here, and that is just in a 24 to 48 hour period, folks. That is a lot of rainfall and a lot of runoff from the storm. And if that's not enough, we have a cold side with freezing rain, sleet, and even a heavy snowfall setup. So as we go through this evening, we got a little bit of snow here into portions of Lake Michigan, into Wisconsin, northeast Illinois, and northern Indiana. That's going to bring maybe a couple of inches of snow. Then as we go through the day on Saturday, we're just going to see a conveyor belt of moisture moving north, and overrunning that is the cold air, and we have a lot of some snow here in the blue. We do have some mixed precipitation. Doesn't look like a widespread shield of ice, but definitely enough for some freezing rain, sleet, and freezing drizzle out there from southern Iowa, northern Missouri, through central Illinois, into parts of Indiana, Ohio, and maybe even southern lower Michigan as well. And then we're going to change that back over to snow as the colder air rushes in on the backside. Now, as we go into Sunday morning, the system's really going to mature over here in the Northeast. Very heavy 1 to 2 inch per hour snow rates, maybe even higher than that across Maine, New Hampshire, Vermont, upstate New York, and really into southern Ontario, Quebec. That's where we're going to see the potential for some blizzard-like conditions with some strong winds on the backside. And yes, some lake effect snowfall in Michigan area as we go into Sunday will continue to add up some of those snow totals. Let's first look at the mixture of precip, freezing rain, freezing drizzle, and sleet. Could be seeing a little bit of a light glaze upwards to 0.2 of an inch of ice here across portions along the Iowa-Missouri border there into southeast Nebraska, central Illinois down toward Peoria, and then across parts of the Ohio Valley. We're talking Indiana, Ohio, southern lower Michigan, and then over here into parts of the Northeast, especially with the cold air damming there from Pennsylvania along the Appalachians down into West Virginia and Virginia. Then on the snow side, yeah, we're talking several inches of significant snow here, really picking up in Wisconsin, northern Illinois, looking at 3 to 6 inches. And then looking at Michigan, most of the state of Michigan here is going to see the potential of 6 to 10 inches, and then over a foot of snow across most of upstate New York, Vermont, New Hampshire, and northern Maine. The Caribou area could be seeing potentially 18 inches of snow before it's all said and done. And that's not even taking into account some of these localized bands that this model is not showing for those lake effect snow bands. So even heavier amounts in parts of Michigan as this storm system starts to wrap up on the backside. Now, the polar vortex is in our backyard as we go into next week, and it's going to be near us here in the Hudson Bay, and that is going to bring a conveyor belt of polar air into the United States as we go into next week. I mean, look at these temperature anomalies. Absolutely crazy, looking at 50 degrees below normal for temperature anomalies across the nation's midsection, really across the ag belt as we go into next week between Monday, February 17th and Friday, February 21st here. And looking at the nation's midsection, look at the northern U.S. up here in the Dakotas, Minnesota, Wisconsin. Wind chills Monday morning could be anywhere from 30 to as much as 60 degrees below zero, folks. That is some life-threatening wind chills. And if that's not enough, look at Tuesday morning. We continue to make that more widespread, 30 to 50 below zero wind chills, possibly all the way down into Kansas, Missouri, downstate Illinois, and Indiana. And that just continues to become more widespread. I mean, Wednesday morning on the 19th, we could be seeing minus wind chills all the way down into central Texas, folks. This is some dangerous stuff. And it just continues to ooze southward as we go into Thursday, into Friday, and we finally get a little breather as we go into Saturday, but still no relief in sight even by then on the 22nd, still seeing 20 degree below zero wind chills in parts of the Midwest with our snowpack. So we're in it for the long haul, folks. Make sure to bundle up as you head outdoors next week. It is going to be very, very cold, and your cars may not start either because it's just so cold, especially the further north you go. And you want to keep a drip on those water pipes. Keep dripping that water and make sure the water pipes don't freeze, because that is potentially significant there in the upper Midwest when we get so cold. Now, looking at the precipitation as we go into next week, that is going to force a lot of cold, dry air into that region. We got a very strong 1050 high pressure up there in the upper Midwest region. It's just going to force the storm track further south. I think this is fair game for snow across the lower Midwest, the Ohio Valley, the Mid-Atlantic, and yes, the I-95 corridor. And I know a lot of you folks over here in Philly, Baltimore, New York City, up to Boston and Hartford have been waiting for a big snowstorm. Your potential comes next week, I think between that Wednesday and Friday time frame, and this could be a big snowstorm if everything comes together just right. If the low pressure track is off of Cape Cod there to the east, we have cold air in place, yes, and we have some moisture. You could get a pretty big nor'easter out of this next week, and the ensembles are hinting at that, showing some pretty decent snowfall in the blue here from Nebraska, Kansas, Missouri, downstate Illinois, through much of the lower Ohio River Valley that's seeing the heavy rainfall now. We're going to pack snow on top of that into next week, and then potentially some heavier snows and a nor'easter threat for the Northeast as we go into later next week between that Wednesday and Friday time frame. If you're not a fan of the cold Arctic air, and I know a lot of you probably are or maybe not, I am not a fan of the real cold air. I like it cold enough to snow, but not 60 degrees below zero. We're going to continue to see some colder air further to the east. It's going to moderate a little bit, but also if we lay down a pretty heavy snowpack in the Northeast, this could be a little bit more intense than this model shows, but we're going to see the polar vortex retreat back to where it should be in the Arctic. And we're going to see the Pacific air start to move in across the west first, and then into the middle of the country here in the plains as we go into later the following week. This is between Monday, February 24th and Friday as well. So we're going to be keeping an eye on that as we go into the end of February. But for now, we're going to continue to update you with the latest on this significant winter storm with heavy snow, ice, the significant flash flooding risk, and the significant severe weather risk. Follow along with all my detailed, accurate weather breakdowns. Likely, again, another video tomorrow morning, so make sure to look out for that. Turn on post notifications, subscribe to the channel so I can keep you updated. I am only 400 subscribers away from 125,000. You can help me get there by subscribing to the channel now. Like the video, give it a thumbs up if you found it informative. Share this video with friends, family, and on social media. If you want to leave a comment down below in the comment section with any questions about the weather or this winter storm, cold air, anything like that, I'll answer those after the video. Thank y'all for watching. Have a wonderful rest of your Valentine's Day out there, everybody. Hope everybody enjoyed it, and I hope everyone has a wonderful rest of their evening out there as well.